Hello, everyone. My name is Sanjeev Musuvathy. I'm an ex-BCG consultant, an ex-Googler, and the founder of Rocketblocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. And today I'm excited because we've got Sanjeev with us. Sanjeev is a graduate of UNC Undergraduate Business School. He is an incoming associate at BCG in their Dallas office. So thank you today for, and I forgot to mention, he got offers at all three MBB consulting firms. So congratulations, Sanjeev, and thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. It's great to be here, Kenton. I think some of the most important value that I got through my recruiting process was actually interacting with alumni and individuals of the firm in general. A lot of the insights, like for example, the Dylan Bolden thing for BCG Dallas with digital, or I even talked to BCGers from South Africa and the Johannesburg office to figure out that BCG is the only firm that's allowed to actually operate in South Africa now because McKinsey and Bain had significant corruption issues. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons I even put in my cover letter. And so I had a partner when I got the offer who was like mentioning that as a big sticking point. So I think that having a lot of conversations with individuals who are in industry isn't just a check the box kind of thing. It's a relationship building thing that like gives you access to this unique information, and also just they're really nice people that actually care about you and want you to succeed.
Yeah. Do you feel like I do think as an undergrad, and I remember when I was in your shoes trying to reach out and build those connections when I was that young and just didn't have that much perspective, like it almost felt like hard, like what do I reach out and say? Because it sort of feels like they just know, like I'm trying to like build networks. Like, did you find any unique ways, or like what worked for you in that regard? Because it sounds like you were very successful in like meeting a lot of people very early on.
So to be honest, I was actually quite late to the networking game. I didn't start like networking pretty heavily until my sophomore summer, which is like right when the application drops were out. So it was pretty interesting time. I think what really helped me was, and I'd recommend all students do this, is before you start talking to associates and consultants at these firms, and definitely before talking to anyone more senior, talk to the individuals at your school who've gotten internship offers, because those are very low risk conversations. You basically can just kind of just have very casual interaction with them, and that way you're able to get the early stage mistakes and basic questions answered, so that when you go to talk to individuals from McKinsey or BCG, you're able to have far more nuanced understandings of the topic. And so you're not asking like how many hours you work per week, but rather you're asking like what is the big focus that BCG is involving themselves with, like how does the pivot to sustainability, how does that influence your day-to-day life as an associate, like stuff like that, right? And these conversations are all really important, because the way that, especially at the undergrad level, the way that you're able to get an interview is whoever is the school recruiting lead for your for your school, they're looking at all the resumes in the pile. And so if they've had a positive conversation with you, or if someone from your school has had a positive conversation with you and tells them, then you're much more likely to get an interview. So it's definitely worthwhile to build these relationships and just have some interactions.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense, and I agree with that. Like just having like, there's a bunch of kids that are going to have resumes in the pile that are really smart and have done impressive things, and so a little thing like, oh, I talked to this smart kid and he seemed great, like can be enough to just get your resume moved to the right pile.
I think one of the challenges that a lot of individuals have too when they're having these conversations is that there's a natural impulse to like big yourself up or like try to brag to individuals, like to consultants. Frankly, that's not the best strategy, because they have your resume on paper, which is like this unfiltered, like objective point of view of what you've accomplished. And so it's much better, in my experience, to just talk to individuals like you're talking to them at a bar, or just like in a coffee shop, right? Have casual conversations, because they're people too. And it tends to be much more beneficial if you can talk about things that are actually interesting to you and someone else. Like one of my fun facts for the summer was I entered the 2022 NBA draft as a joke. So because anyone can apparently apply and get into it. And so I was talking to one of the global leaders for private equity at BCG this summer, and I threw that out there because he was like a big NBA fan, and he like got a huge kick out of it. And apparently his buddy like 10 years earlier done something very similar. So stuff like that ends up being really valuable versus saying like, oh, like I previously worked at a hedge fund, like it's a difference in how you can build the relationship and foster those interactions.
Yeah, it makes you memorable, right? Like if nothing else, it's like, yeah, that was the kid that like entered the NBA draft. Like I remember that. Whereas like you're another smart person that worked at a hedge fund. Like that,
Yeah.
that fact will probably dissipate and fade from people's memories.